keep hair better groomed without looking greasy, use Kremel daily. Time for Gabriel Heatter and his up-to-the-minute news of the world brought to you by Kremel Hair Tonic. Kreml. Kremel Hair Tonic. Men, those handsome chaps the girls admire for their well-groomed appearance have no corner on attractive hair grooming. So don't despair if summer's sun and wind are making your hair look dry, stringy, and unattractive. Start using Kremel Hair Tonic daily. Kremel is used by countless thousands of America's best-dressed men to relieve that brittle, wiry appearance of hair when caused by excessive exposure to drying summer sun and heat. You'll be delighted with the way Kremel makes your hair softer, easier to comb. And see if you don't find that it stays in place all day long, looking more youthful, so naturally lustrous and so handsome, and with none of that ugly, greasy, glued-down look. Remember, Kremel Hair Tonic for better groomed hair, the kind girls like. And now, Gabriel Heatter.
Good evening, everyone. If you hear nothing by midnight Washington time tonight, you'll hear nothing official until after 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. There's a feeling in Washington Japan's delay indicates a dramatic disagreement inside her own government. And that may delay a final reply for several days. Even civil war in Japan isn't ruled out as a possibility now. Their people know nothing even now regarding their surrender offer. Their latest propaganda line talks of more war and the likelihood of American invasion. And the war is on, very much on. There's no evidence to show that the people are being prepared for surrender. We know tonight they lied when they said they were delayed by the fact that our counter-proposal only arrived in Tokyo early today. Swiss authorities say they had the Jap acknowledgement 24 hours before that. Their news reports reveal several conferences between Togo and the Emperor. So he and other army leaders may be unwilling to go along in any surrender arrangement. The Swiss Foreign Office has made arrangements to remain on duty all night tonight in anticipation of some reply. If it comes, will it be a final reply or another counter-offer? Or will it reveal some dramatic surprise inside Japan? The Emperor's abdication, perhaps, to avoid the personal humiliation of surrender. Will the reply reveal a new government in Japan? A government whose purpose would be more delay. You remember all the changes before Pearl Harbor. China's ambassador seems confident of big news soon. He ought to know how the Jap mind would work under these circumstances. He's a well-informed man. I believe he knows. At least he has every right to know what to expect. He seems confident. There are no facts, however, nothing but mysterious silence. Do they need time in Tokyo to swallow the cruel, arrogant pride? There's little doubt of it. This will be a cup of bitter tea. Picture anybody whose job it may have been to kneel today in the Emperor's presence and say, Holy One, Your Majesty, you'll have to sign a document admitting complete defeat and accepting unconditional surrender. You'll have to do this even when your armies are intact, 4 million strong. You'll have to do all this even before an enemy soldier has landed on your shores. You'll have to agree to place yourself under a supreme allied commander who will be the real ruler of Japan. And after all that, after you've carried out his orders, you'll have to wait for the people of Japan to say whether or not you're to be continued. Even when we're back once more an obscure, disarmed, and dismantled group of islands without pomp or power. When you realize 9 persons in 10 in Japan would hardly dare look up with the Emperor passing by. When you consider how much he represents God to millions. When you realize how completely all of Japan's national life is tied up with this one man who is now virtually forced to offer himself up to do as we say and carry out our commands and admit everything he represents in power, natural and supernatural, has failed to save Japan. You'll agree, I'm sure, carrying that news to him was quite a mission. Yet somebody had to carry that message to Hirohito. Was it Mr. Togo? And did he fall promptly on his sword and commit harikiri after that? Or did Japan's entire cabinet carry the word in, and was it cabinet harikiri after that? a small part of everything we've been told about that ritual is true, there must be, or there may be, a good many dead Jap warlords in Tokyo tonight. But if there's a bombshell of surprise left in Japan, who knows? Even Hirohito may embark on that journey called harikiri. No one in Japan, no one in more than 2,500 years has ever had to take that kind of medicine. This is new for Japan, as new as our atomic bomb. This isn't merely the defeat of an army or a navy or an air force. This can't be explained away by saying they were outnumbered or outgunned. This is final and complete bankruptcy of a wild, fierce faith in which generations of Japs have shared, and which few ever thought to question. Germany's acknowledgement of defeat, even if Hitler were to stand up and proclaim it, and sign it with his own name, that would have been a small matter by comparison. This is no mere matter of losing a war for the Japs. There are 14 years of aggression behind Japan's march of conquest. 14 years of victory are coming down in one dismal heap. 14 years of victories in which her empire was multiplied in miles and wealth. A wealth as fabulous as you'll find anywhere in all the world. There it was in her own hands, and every mile of land, sky, and water for 5,000 miles around, dominated by her ships and her planes and her rulers. All this came crashing down almost overnight. It isn't going to be easy for Hirohito to confess it and say, I'm now subject to orders as much as any Jap peasant or soldier. This is retribution, swift and terrible. He'll say it finally, however, but they'll wait as long as possible. One had to stand alongside General MacArthur on Bataan. One had to hear the cruel yelp of exultation which came from Tojo's pirates to know how those troops will take this news. One had to march alongside General Jonathan Wainwright or spend the day inside a Jap prison camp. One had to be there and hear the cry for the whip or the bayonet when any American fell exhausted by the ordeal, to realize why they've held back their surrender until the last possible minute. This is a cup of bitter tea. One had to be in Hong Kong when the Japs marched in, or near the giant ships Repulse and Prince of Wales, when both went down in one blow, and the roar of Banzai came up with the fury of thunder. To recall their victory cry and to know the measure of their fall is to understand why they keep us waiting, putting it off, and putting it off, and yet knowing the final minutes would tick away, and then turn to their people and say it was all a dream, all a fantastic nightmare. To say you'll never build another warship, another bomber, another gun. You're going back into obscurity. They'll sign. Faith is a wonderful weapon for every hour in life. Weeks ago, before the atomic bomb, before the Russians came in, before the ultimatum, when a good many well-informed men were saying the war would last another year, and two perhaps, I said peace and reunion would come before Christmas. Faith is America's greatest weapon, more than 1,000 atomic bombs. Why did I say it would be over before Christmas? There were military reasons, yes, a great many. Okinawa won the war. The handwriting was on the wall even then. But beyond everything else, I seemed to feel mankind was ready at last. For peace and the prayers of a war-weary world would be answered now. And so when you hear the gloomy forebodings of a post-war disaster for the American people, hold fast to your faith and your faith in America. Remember everything that was said after Pearl Harbor. Here's a welcome bulletin from Germany. 2 plane loads of top Nazi criminals arrive in Nuremberg tonight. Arrive for the trial. Here's a sidelight on the trial of Marshal Pétain. The Paris press revealed tonight Pétain finds a heavy batch of fan mail in his cell every night after court adjourns. Out of every 5 letters, 3 are said to be favorable to him, and 2 are described as unfavorable and insulting. Here's a bulletin on General de Gaulle. It was officially announced in Paris a few minutes ago. General de Gaulle will arrive in Washington on August 22nd for a meeting with the President. May I take half a minute, please? You know, I'm sure I can help some man tuned in find a much greater enjoyment in his hair. A brand new enjoyment. And find all the inner well-being a man feels when he knows he looks his best. Kremel. Kremel instead of water on your hair. Kremel to help your hair look soft and smooth, and to keep it that way all day long. Present you at your best for every occasion, always. I'd give a good deal if I could help every man tuned in tonight to really enjoy that experience. Kremel on your hair. I doubt if you'd ever go back again to water on your hair. Will you try it tomorrow? A treat you'll look forward to every day, I'm sure. And if some woman tuned in would like to hear a song at her house any morning, put some Kremel where he can find it. Thank you very much. Well, the big word in Washington before long will be reconversion. Doing as much as we can, as fast as we can, to create as many jobs as we can. It's a monumental undertaking. As staggering as anything we've had to do for the war itself. There were many of us who tried to say, let Congress act now before its summer recess. We tried to say the end in Japan might come at any time and the impact would hit millions of homes. And now we'll have to catch up and move fast. And I propose as one immediate move in reconversion. We consider hundreds of thousands of American homes where wives, children, dependent parents wait for the fathers who went to war. Here the problems are bound to be unusually heavy. There are more dependents, more people affected. Hundreds of thousands of such families have had to give up their homes, group together, live with relatives or friends. If we can possibly provide even a bit of an extra start for these men, for these older men, and for these homes, for the wives and children who've been waiting, that would be a great help in getting reconversion underway. You and I know in the technical age into which we're moving, a man's age is always a factor in his application for a job. And the man over 35 is not only confronted by the heavier responsibilities, but a more difficult readjustment. If we could possibly begin with these men and get all these men home as soon as possible and their homes going once more, make reunion possible wherever we can for the children and their fathers, that would be a good place to begin. And let's remember, more than half of all our pre-war jobs came from small employers, came from men who hired anywhere from half a dozen to 25 men in small enterprises of every kind. And they undoubtedly make up that group we call older men in uniform, too old for combat. They undoubtedly make up our great majority of fathers in uniform. They represent a large part of what we call small business, men who can make jobs possible for other men. Yes, reconversion. And remember the American home. The home broken by the impact of war. Get it back again as soon as we can. Ladies and gentlemen, your good friend and mine, Len Sterling.
Thank you, Gabriel Heatter. Why don't you do like so many of America's best-dressed men do? Use Kremel Hair Tonic daily to keep your hair looking its handsome best all through the summer. Kremel leaves hair looking so lustrous, so masculine, never glued down or greasy looking. Kremel also promptly relieves itching of dry scalp and removes untidy dandruff flakes. And how cooling and refreshing it feels to apply it. Ask for Kremel at your barber shop. Buy a bottle at any drug counter. Kreml. Kremel. And be sure to listen to Kremel's presentation of the news by William Lang over most of these same stations every weekday, Monday through Friday, at 12 noon Eastern Wartime. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.